So, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Favino's Perfect Beer Talks webinar. My name is Inky and I'll be your host once again today. Today's guest is somebody who I truly started to learn about beer from her, from her website and from her work. And I'm very excited to have her on Perfect Beer Talks webinar today and to ask her all the questions about how she comes up with all her art, with all her books, and all her experiences and all her fun stories. Because I have had the chance to talk with her a bit behind the stage, and she has some very fun stories. So, Sauter, welcome to Perfect Beer Talks webinar. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. Now, as I mentioned, I honestly first found out about you through Pints and Panels. Like that was my first ever introduction to Sauter. And then I went through your LinkedIn and then your Instagram account, and I got to learn more about your work. So for those of you who don't know, I will do a very short introduction of you. So Sauter is a cartoonist, an advanced Cicerone, a beer judge, and also a contributor to Forbes magazine. So I just want to start my first question with, can you please tell us a bit more about you? How did you start this entire journey, and what are you doing right now?
Well, I'm talking to you right now, but which is great, which means I'm successful in doing things that are great. So that's wonderful. So I started. It's a twofold story, and I'll try to keep it pretty brief. The drawings part started when I was 4, and I drew my first person when I was in nursery school, and I was very excited. And I always wanted to be a cartoonist when I was a kid. That was my dream. That or a meteorologist because I love the weather.
Okay.
But I'm terrible at math and science. I had a teacher tell me that was a really bad career choice for me. So I said, "Oh, that's probably okay." Yeah, I'm terrible at math and science. Beer is a lot of science too, so I really struggle with that. So you're lifelong learning when you're learning about beer. So I started my style around 11. My mom had mailed me, I was at summer camp, and my mom had mailed me Archie comics, which are very popular here in America, with Archie and Jughead and all these high school characters. You can watch the Riverdale. There's that like mystery show about, which is not like the comic at all. But I really liked that style of art, and so I tried to mimic it. And I was in 6th grade, and I drew my first character that was kind of a ripoff of Archie, which was a picture of me, and it looked very similar to how I draw today. So I have very limited style, and I remember being like, "All right, cool, I'm going to keep at it." And then I was the cartoonist for my newspaper. I did doodles when I worked in finance for a little bit, which helped me pay to go to art school. And I got into the Center for Cartoon Studies, which is a cartooning MFA program and Masters of Fine Arts program in 2009. And it was in Vermont, which is the land of beer. And so I got to drink amazing beer. And I graduated from there in 2011. Beer-wise, I mean, Pints and Panels started as a project at school in 2010, and I would review beer. And then in 2019, I was studying for the Master Cicerone exam and started making comics to help me because I'm a visual learner, and then sharing those. And those made people really happy. And so I made more of them. And now it is my full-time job. And then the beer part, I had my first wit beer in 2007. And after drinking that, I realized I wanted to devote my life to beer. I'm a huge wit beer fanatic. I love White House. And so having that, I became a huge beer person, visiting breweries, and then being in Vermont really helped with, Hill Farmstead opened in 2010. So, and there was Long Trail. There was so many access to really good beer. And then I moved to Oregon in 2011 for a year and a half, and that was even access to great beer. Beer's everywhere in Oregon. It's in bakeries and like automakers. Like they give you a beer when you get your hair cut. Like it's like really wild how beer culture is very permeated the Oregon scene. And that was really when beer started to take off. And then I moved back to Connecticut for a few years. And in 2018, I focused on taking the Master Cicerone exam, which I never passed, but that studying and aspect of that really made Pints and Panels what it is. And now I'm writing for Forbes. I have the All About Beer podcast, which I'm a co-host of, which comes out every 2 weeks. I do commissions, so I will draw your favorite beer or your cat or your house or anything you want. And I have 2 books, about to have 4 books out, one in Spanish next month.
Okay.
And a collection of my infographics, which was supposed to come out now, but then I changed printers, and so my printer's taking longer. So now it'll be in the summer. And I think that's everything, but probably not.
You did a great job of summarizing it, actually. I couldn't have done it better myself, but I'm excited for your new book. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about one of your slogans, beer is for everyone. Now, I wanted to talk about it because everything you do, like most of the things you do, are available on the website for free.
Yes.
The work that you do, you do it, you just give it to everyone and anyone who would like to learn more about beer. And it truly is, you're truly trying to do something that will enable anyone who wants to learn about beer to actually learn about it without having to, stress out about the payment, stress out about, oh, can I afford it, can I not afford it? Where did this all start from, and why? Because not a lot of people are doing it. So unfortunately, that's why I'm asking this question.
I just wanted Pints and Handles to be accessible. I find when people want to learn about beer, I myself, this happens to me all the time. I'll Google something, because that's what you do now. And the first thing that pops up is usually wrong. And it drives me nuts. Like, I really, really want people to have accurate. I just started a new series called Let's Debunk Beer Myths, because when I give talks at my local library or when I talk to people at breweries, they're always like, oh, well, stouts are heavy and fattening, and beer should be ice cold, and IPAs came over for like India Pale Ale because they jammed hops in them, and there's all these like, I like my beer in a really frosty mug, or beer gives me a beer belly. Like, there's all these beer myths that are ingrained, and they're regional. There's some that people were sending me that I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that one, and it's a struggle to teach people, because there's all these things that people believe in beer, but they're wrong. No offense. And so I was like, I will make visual beer education. I will make it free and accessible, because beer is a global beverage. I mean, we're talking halfway around the world right now together, and we have a love of beer. And so that's something what is it? The second or third most drank beverage after tea, and or water, and like beer is for everyone. Beer really is a global beverage, and it is beloved by the world. And so if I can teach people about beer in an accurate, free, visual way, where you don't really need to learn the language that I'm talking about if you don't speak English, then that's my goal. And so that's why I want beer to be for everyone, because people really, I want people to be able to learn about beer in an accurate, easy to understand way. And I don't want to make you pay for it. I make my money elsewhere. So I let schools use it for free. I mean, Pints and Panels is taught at Ivy League universities. It's taught at, the best brewing schools in America, Belgium, England. I mean, it's pretty exciting to have people use what I do and trust that I'm right. And if people see something and they're like, wait a minute, that's not right, I want to know about it and I want to fix it. So, because that's happened, you can't be right all the time.
True. That's so awesome. So when I first started working at Pabino in a year and a half ago almost, and before that I had no background on the beverage industry, let alone beer. I come from an AI and tech experience, but not beer and beverage. So I was trying to find ways for me to learn more about beer, because besides the fact that I knew I liked a certain type of beer, I didn't really know much else about it. Like, it has to be cold. Yes, sure. I love the foam. Okay, but like, what else about it? So I came across your website, and that's how I started working on it. And then I started creating my own content just for fun. I was just writing, because I'm a visual learner, but I'm also somebody who learns best by rewriting stuff on her own. So I just take something and I try to rewrite it in a way that makes most sense for me. And that's how I started learning about beer. It really was from Pints and Panels. And I was like, who is this person who's done this? At first, I thought it was a group of people, by the way. I'm not going to lie to you.
Oh, it's just me.
I was like, for sure, there's a team behind this. And then I thought I was you. And then I followed you on social media. And since then, it's been a year now. And I'm just so, I'm kind of like very happy that that I'm interviewing you. And I just want to learn. I want to learn also because the art that you do, it teaches me a lot, but it's also so simple. That's what I loved about it. And I was just wanted to ask, is there a reason behind you making it so simple besides having people to understand it very easily?
No, because that's all I can do. That's my art style. I can't draw anything else. Don't ask me to, like there's Tintin, or I couldn't draw like Hergé, the Belgian artist behind Tintin. I can't do anything but what I can do, and that is simplicity. So that's all I got. That's why it's so simple. That's the answer.
Awesome. Now, I wanted to also ask you. You talked a little bit about debunking beer myths in the last question, and I just wanted to ask you, what is the most interesting myth you have debunked so far?
Well, I just started it. I just today posted my first one, and I did Irish stouts because everyone thinks that Irish stouts or Guinness is like a meal in a glass, which it is filling because of the nitrogen and the creaminess of it, but it's actually very low in calories. So an average Guinness 12-ounce pour is 125 calories, very similar to or lower than like an American lager or an industrial lager. A hazy IPA is going to have over 100 calories more than that. For people who are trying to, they think of stouts as heavy, high alcohol beers, and they can be, but Irish stouts are not. And then they're made with, roast barley and flaked barley. And so they're relatively low in residual sugar and relatively low in ABV, which contributes to their low calorie content. So all these people think of Guinness as this like meal in a glass. It is very much not. My favorite beer myth, which is something I believed myself until I was told otherwise, is that beer can't be cold and then warm again. This is a truly American thing.
Okay.
So like a lot of people in America believe if you buy beer cold and pull it out of the refrigerator and then you leave it, you've destroyed it. That is anyone who's not American, I tell that to, is like, what? But most Americans believe this myth. And so you can, obviously, you can take beer cold and then make it warm again and then cold again, as long as you're not making it, freezing it or boiling it and you leave it out of the sun there. It's fine. Obviously refrigerated beer is better and keeping it refrigerated extends shelf life. But yeah, that's the number one question I get at talks when I give people it. They're like, why can't I get beer cold and then warm again? And I'm like, you can.
No, I did not know that was something.
That's the number one American myth, and is believed by most people.
I am shocked right now. Okay, for all of you who are watching from the US, Em said it. She's an advanced Cicerone. Don't listen to me. You can listen to her. You can take a cold beer of a bottle of beer and make it warm and then put it in the fridge again, and you can just.
You've done nothing wrong. Don't do it like 15 times.
Obviously.
But you can do that is fine. And yeah, something I believed until I worked in a bottle shop in 2011. So it is I believe that was. I will be honest. So yeah.
Well, I'm curious, so if you go to a supermarket and then you do your groceries for the week, and then you get, I don't know, a 6-pack or an 8-pack of beer, and then you put it in the car and you drive somewhere else and then you go back home. So by the time that you went home, the beer is warmer. So what happens then? What do they think?
I don't know. I was in a grocery store a couple of years ago and I overheard a father talking to his son about how they couldn't buy beer. And he was like in his 40s. we couldn't buy beer because they were going somewhere else, and the beer had to stay cold the whole time or else it would be ruined. And I wanted to like be like, excuse me. And then I was like, no, it's none of my business to like debunk myths in the groceries. Let the man shop. But yeah, so I was like, oh no, like it's a huge myth in America. It's one of the ones I'm currently working on right now. This should probably be there's so many myths. Yeah. It should be probably a weekly series now, unfortunately.
So how about the myth that there are types of beers for women and there are types of beers for men?
Yes, that's actually really good. I'm really going to write that down. So I have a sticker that's very popular, and I give a talk about women's contributions to beer. Yes. Beer has a gender. I'm literally making a note because because that's a really good one. Thank you for that. Okay. So I give a talk, and one of the first things I tell people is that beer is gender neutral.
Yeah.
Beer doesn't have I was in a tasting room, and I overheard a guy be like, oh, I can't drink that. It's girly. And I like hit my hand down on the counter, and I went, beer has no gender. You drink what you want. And everyone in the tasting room was like, yeah. Like, so there's no beer that you can drink what you want. And that's another huge thing that I say at Pints and Panels is I drink the beer I like. As long as you get out of your comfort zone once in a while and try something new, if you want to drink mass-produced light lagers and that's the only thing you want, and you love them, then that is totally acceptable. As long as you try something else, maybe once in a while, and if you don't like it, that's fine. You don't also have to like every beer. I don't really like coffee stouts. They're fine. It's just, they're not my favorite. And so, but does it mean that coffee stouts are bad? No, it just means that I have and everyone is allowed to have a preference. True. But there is a pink beer is not for a girl. I was in Ukraine in 2011 and they make a white ale, which is delicious, called Bile, which is the Ukrainian word for white. And my sister's Ukrainian boyfriend was saying like, oh, I love that beer, but it's for men or for women. And I was like, no, who cares? Have one. Like, who cares?
Yeah. If you enjoy it, just go ahead and drink it, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So some people are telling me that our the hot internet is slow. So Hello. I think yes. So I was getting messages from everyone saying that I was freezing. So I just changed the connection real quick. I hope they can hear me and see me properly now. Yeah. So sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good.
Totally fine. So the reason why I asked you the question is because when I was first trying to learn more about beer, I was going through in different bars and pubs around Istanbul, and thank God there's like hundreds and thousands and thousands of bars here who do serve great beer, and a lot of nice breweries and local breweries as well. And like a waiter said, this will be better for your taste. Will fit your taste better. And I was like, in what sense? And then he was like, it's more appropriate. Like women like it mostly. It's more appropriate to their taste buds and so on. And I was like, is there such a thing as, different taste buds about beer for men and women? And then I did my research and there isn't. It's just whatever you like to drink, because there isn't such a thing for wine, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was just like, why is there such a myth for beer? There are beers that mostly, like, I don't know, men would prefer. I don't know, maybe at least for around me, like that. For example, I don't really prefer the bitter beer. I prefer something that is a bit more fruity, but that doesn't mean that I have a woman taste or anything.
You drink what you like. I really like dark big beers. I like I was in a steakhouse, a very famous. I was going to just say what it was. I was at Peter Luger's for my birthday, which is a very famous steakhouse in Brooklyn, which is known for having a very surly waitstaff. And And I ordered, they have Köstritzer on draft, which is used German Schwarzbier on draft. Like, that's amazing. That's a great beer with steak. And the guy was like, I just want to let you know it's dark. And I looked at him like point blank, and I was like, I know. And I've only had, so I work very limitedly part-time in a tasting room, and we have beers that aren't labeled as sours, they're labeled as farmhouse ales. And so when people order them, I ask everyone, men and women, this beer is quite tart. Are you familiar with our sour beers? And I preface that by saying, I ask everybody this question because I don't want women to feel like I'm singling them out that they don't know or don't like certain things. Are you familiar with is also a good, I went to, there's a importer I live in Connecticut called OEC, and they import Schlenkerla. And I ordered it just said Schlenkerla Märzen. If you don't know what Schlenkerla is, it's a very heavy smoked beer. And so, but it just says Märzen, it doesn't say smoked. And so the bartender was like, are you familiar with Schlenkerla? And I was like, heck yeah, give me the Schlenkerla. I want it. You have it on draft. It's really hard to find. So it's trying to make people feel like you're not, I find that women sometimes feel like men or anyone behind the bar is discounting the fact that maybe they know about beer, and they kind of write them off. When couples come in together, a lot of men will just order their wife something or their girlfriend or whoever. And I'm always like, no, let's find something she likes, because I know what you're doing. You're trying to order 2 beers for yourself.
Yes, exactly.
You can get 2 beers for yourself. You can get another one later. Let's find something she likes. And then I, ask what flavors they like, if they're try stuff. And if sometimes they don't like any of them. And I'm always like, that's fine. We went on a journey together and you didn't like any of them, then that's fine. So, but
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I also talking again about women a little bit. As we mentioned before, you are an advanced Cicerone. Now, I don't know if we should be proud about this or so sad about this, but you are only like one out of 25 women who are advanced Cicerone worldwide. So in the entire world, there are only 25 women who are advanced Cicerones. Now, mind you, there are around 130 advanced Cicerones, if I'm not wrong, globally. So
there's 170 advanced Cicerones now. I think that number is more like but it's still like 30 or 35. So it's very, very low.
Very, very low. And you're my the second advanced Cicerone, like woman advanced Cicerone I'm interviewing in Perfect Beer Talks webinar. And one day I hope I can interview almost all of the women advanced Cicerones in Perfect Beer Talks webinar. Maybe we can have like a joint webinar, all of us, and we can just talk about your guys' experiences being women and also becoming advanced Cicerones. Now, can you please tell me a little bit about what it means to be an advanced Cicerone, first of all, because not everyone knows that. I know there's an exam involved, and I know it's pretty difficult, but for those who maybe want to take the exam, or for those who maybe are going to take the exam pretty soon, what advice would you give them? And
so I got my advanced Cicerone in 2017. When I took it, now it's a 2-part test. So you take the written and then you come back another time and take the tasting. But when I took it, you did it all in one day. So it was 8 hours, which is exhausting. I truly thought I had failed it. So it's 3 hours in the morning of written, 3 hours in the afternoon, 6 hours of writing. And then you have a tasting portion. So they'll put beer in front of you and they go, is this an American blonde ale or a triple? And then there's a oral component. So you sit down with someone and they go, tell me everything you know about American porters. That was mine.
Okay.
And they give you a beer and they go, is this American porter? And I said no. And it was Founders Porter. But to my defense, Founders Porter is on the very tall, like very high end for alcohol and bitterness. And I was like, very uncool, Cicerone. I was like, this is a stout. Come on. I did not think I passed. It's like a mixture of short answer, essay, multiple choice, fill in the blank, long form essays. The tasting portion, you need to know off flavors, diacetyl, acetaldehyde, oxidation, stuff like that. And then fit to serve. They'll put a beer in front of you and they go, would you serve this in your bar and why? Or why not? And I knew I had done really well in the tasting, which is, I find tastings, you have good days or you have bad days. When I took the Master Cicerone twice, and I got close to passing, but not enough where I thought that it would benefit to take it a third time. No
Okay.
offense to Cicerone, like I think it's a really great program. I'm excited to see. I know it was just sold to 2 Master Cicerones, and so I'm excited to see where that goes. But yeah, it's a real, you need to study 40 hours a week for 6 months in order to pass that. And I am a business of one. I also have to self-fund everything. A lot of people who take it have breweries paying for all their travel, extra classes, time off to study. And I don't have that luxury. So being an advanced Cicerone is very cool and very difficult to achieve. And so I was very proud of that achievement. So that's why my journey ended there. Maybe I'll go back. Who knows?
Maybe,
But,
yeah.
but it's, yeah, so I mean, for those who are serious about learning about beer, the advanced is great. I highly recommend, if you don't know the brewing side, which I don't, I am what I call a participant drinker. I don't brew. How to Brew by John Palmer is probably the best book for learning about the brewing process. It is a homebrew book, but the way that he talks about brewing is really helpful for the normal person who's not a professional brewer. And so I highly recommend reading that book multiple times. It is a bit dry, but it is full of things. And that's probably the best book for helping take the advanced.
Awesome. Thank you for the recommendation. I hope our listeners took a note and will read it at one point. Now I want to again talk about a little bit you being one of the 25 women who are advanced Cicerones. Now, why do you think that is? Like, why just 25?
I wish I knew that answer. I don't. I mean, beer is a male-dominated field. Like, it's people, when I look at my Instagram, like how many people follow me and like where are they from, and they're 72% of my followers are men.
Oh, okay.
So that's very high.
Yes.
So I think, I mean, more women are becoming brewers. I mean, women historically were brewers as far back as Egypt, and Egypt and men and women both brewed. But like Middle Ages, Mesopotamia, still in Africa, indigenous beers are mostly made by women in Southern Africa and other places. And so, I think it's what the industrialization of beer kind of pushed all the women out. And so that's, I think, and now that the rise of craft brewing, I'm seeing a lot more women in the beer world. And there's other jobs, like there's lots of women brewers, but then there's also brewery, heads of sales are women, heads of marketing, logistics. I mean, there's larger breweries have so many jobs that can be, I mean, women can do anything.
We really can. And it's just that sometimes we forget about it. On a daily basis, somehow it happens, and like it's sad that there aren't as many women in the beer industry as they should be. There should be, because it was like beer was invented, created by women, so it is something that it did come from us, and it's a bit sad to see that after this industrialization, it became a bit more man dominated. But like you said, every year in the past 2 years, I've been seeing more and more women just dominating the industry, and it makes me very, very happy. And all I want to do is have the opportunity to interview all of them, either in one place or just separately, because I want to show the world that women are in the beer industry, and we are doing great, amazing things. And you're one of them. And thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us. Now I want to change the topic a little bit from women to sustainability. I don't know. I'm not sure about how much work you do on sustainability, because you are a cartoonist, so it's something different. But the beer industry is an industry that does consume a lot of water, because beer is made out of water. So, and in one of your podcasts, you had Amy George, right, from Earthy Labs, as a guest, which is a venture committed to reducing the carbon emission in breweries. Now, here at Pabino, we do a lot of work for sustainability, saving water as well as decreasing carbon emission throughout our entire, like the beer industry's entire value chain. Also, today's Water Day, so happy Water Day to everyone who's watching and to you as well. And I just wanted to ask you, do you think that consumers actually care, or do they actively research the more sustainable option when it comes to choosing their favorite beer or ordering like a pint?
I, I wish they did. I don't think they do, but I love when breweries on social media, and I wish more breweries did that, because there is a lot of great ways, Earthly Labs being one of them, and water use. There's a lot of ways that people can be more sustainable, because brewing does waste. It takes 4 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of beer, or something like that. So there's a lot of waste. And if brewers, particularly now, are being way more mindful about their usage, how water's being used, where is the CO2 going, how can we reuse that energy? There's a lot of, the way that kettles now can be used, where there's a lot of energy produced and you can transfer that to something else. That takes a lot of new technology, but as long as people and breweries are very mindful about what goes into making beer, and then cans, how can they be recycled? Pack tech, those like snappy things that go on the top of the beer, those are really hard to recycle. So breweries collect them and reuse them if they can, and they should. So I want to hope that people can do more sustainability measures with their businesses, and tout them, because there's I know on the sustainable, we also had oh gosh, blanking on her name. That's embarrassing. I'm terrible with names and faces.
Me too.
It's a struggle. The one of the heads from Lawson's Liquids, about their sustainability. They're based in Vermont, and so running a large brewery, they're a very big brand. How do they use technology and sustainability to make good beer? And I think you can, and I know you can. So I like when breweries, I think it's a huge measure to tout your sustainability and say, look, we're trying our best. We're making beer, which can be wasteful. Here's how we're mitigating waste. And it's a marketing tactic, but I also think it's something that people should look out for, and be on the lookout for. As long as they're making good beer, then and treating their employees well. Treat your employees well. I think that's very important.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, by the way, yesterday was Forest Day, if I'm not wrong. Today is Water Day, so a lot of celebration on sustainability. And some of the biggest brewers in the world, like Heineken, AB InBev, they do celebrate Water Day, and they do talk a lot about sustainability, and they have a lot of sustainability projects that they work on. And I think as an industry, we're all trying to do something better. We're all trying to make the waste lower, and to also create a solution that is sustainable in both meanings, sustainable for the planet, but also sustainable in the way that a solution that will be able to work for a very for a long time. So that's something that I find very exciting, and I think it's something that should have been done a long time ago, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Better late than ever. And again, happy Water Day to everyone. I wanted to now ask you a little bit about technology, because what we do is technology related, but also beer related. And I really was curious about your thoughts on the implementation of AI and robotics into the beer industry, and of course the draft beer one, the one that we're in. So how do you find the idea of a smart tap? I'm just very curious about your thoughts.
I'm for it as long as the draft lines are clean, and that robotics is interesting because it can take away jobs from people, which is something that needs to be discussed. But at the same time, it can be used in a really great way. I struggle with AI because I'm an artist, and AI tends to steal artist stuff and repurpose it in a terrible, very bad AI art drives me nuts. But then I realized that AI can be used for a lot of things. So for example, right now I'm using AI to learn Spanish because I have a large Latin American following, and I will be in 4 Spanish speaking countries this year. And I want to make sure that my Spanish is up to date and good, because I know Spanish. I just need to learn it. And so I'm using AI to have conversations. They're very sensitive, the AI. I like called one an idiot by accident because they were asking me dumb questions and they were like, please don't be mean to me. And I was like, I was like, lo siento. Like I was very like, disculpe. I was very apologetic. But it was very funny. But so that there are great ways. And then same thing with beer implementation. I think that AI can be used for brewing as long as there's a person overseeing it. That I think that there can be, most breweries now are either using robotics or they're modernized where you're brewing, aka you push a button, but you're still brewing. And I think the quality of beer with the use of like robotics and AI there's so much we can do with it that's good. True. And smart taps can be one of them. I think that, and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm for it as long as don't steal my art.
I think no.
So you won't. I know you won't.
Stealing, nobody can steal your art. I think AI will never be able to steal art, by the way, no matter what people say. It's not personal opinion only. I can talk about, I'm not an expert in the field of AI, but I feel like art is not something that can be taken from AI. It will be a shame if one day I wake up and AI is creating art for humans. It will be a disaster in my opinion. I love seeing art that comes from humans because it's so personal, and it's something so that comes from deep from the soul and the mind, and it's not something that you can just recreate with AI, and it's not something that it won't give you the same feeling, and it won't give you the same, I don't know, it's very, very different. It's very like when ChatGPT came up with Sora. I don't know if you I was, first of all, I was scared because it is scary, and second of all, I was like, I really hope this does not take over the world of art, and I want painters to paint, and we want bartenders to bartend.
Yes.
When it comes to Pabino, our CEO and everyone who's part of Pabino, we always say that the company is has a human centric approach to everything. So the bartender is the main center of attention for us. We want to make his or her work better and easier. It's not about stealing their job. It's just about making this pint as perfect as possible for all of your customers. And also, like, I'm sure that you mentioned clean lines, and you mentioned so many other things that make a perfect beer, which I will ask you a little bit later what makes up a perfect beer for you. But so the idea is, I'm sure you know this, but sometimes when you go to a bar, you order 5 pints, but they don't all look the same. They don't all look the same. So that's what the smart tap does. It just makes all 5 of them look and taste the same. That's honestly just it's not something that will steal anyone's job. And I think it is something that when people first hear about the smart tap, they do get a little bit scared. I just like you, they're like, oh, I hope it doesn't steal my job. I hope it doesn't steal bartender's job. And it's like, no, once you understand what it's doing, it's kind of like going from the iPhone, if we're going from like the old phones that we used to use to iPhones, it doesn't feel much. It just makes it, the experience better. But yeah, that's all I had to say. I hope I didn't sound like I'm trying to protect my much, but
good.
I do really believe in the work that we do, and I just want to explain it to you because I for me your opinion matters, and I just wanted to explain it to you a bit better. But yeah, I now want to ask you, what makes up a perfect pint for you, Sauter?
I mean, in America, actually, that it's poured correctly. So like, it depends though. So in America, we have a beer pour, which everyone knows is the stadium pour, which is no foam. It's just poured all the way. In America, we don't have what a lot of EU or the UK or other places have, where you get a line and you are legally required to give people that amount of beer for that amount of money. In America, it's a little bit of the Wild West. So like, I have a local bar I go to, and when I usually order a Miller Lite, and it comes in a pint glass, shaker glass, which is about 14 US ounces, and it's poured all the way to the top. And that is the right beer for that place.
Okay.
Is it
Yes.
the right beer for like a high-end restaurant? Absolutely not. But there's something about that style of pour in a kind of dive bar or like local bar that makes sense. Whereas if you go to Czechia and you order a beer, you're going to get this much foam and this much beer. And that's the way that it's poured. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And so the perfect pint for me is dependent on the situation. So when I go to a nice restaurant, the glass should be clean. The glass should always be clean. Even my local actually does the glass is, I've never had a dirty glass at my local, and that's a dive bar. Like you can gamble in there. And, and yeah, there's some bar flies and it gets rowdy, and that's the pour I want when I go, not want, but that's the pour I get and what I kind of deserve when you go to a place like that. So I think that's my long-winded answer is the perfect pint. It should be a clean glass. The draft line obviously should be clean. There's nothing worse than a dirty draft line. Like, man, we're actually pretty good here. It's a legal requirement to clean the lines every week in Connecticut, which I actually think is kind of overkill, to be honest. I would say every 2 weeks.
Yes, I thought it was every 2 weeks in most states in the
Yeah, in
US.
Connecticut, it's every week. You're supposed to clean your lines. Nobody does clean every week. I mean, maybe, but not in the places I've worked. Everyone usually does it every 2 weeks. And you clean them yourself. The distributor doesn't clean them for you. In some states, that's illegal. You can't have a distributor clean your lines for you. You hire a company or you do it yourself. I used to clean the lines. In Oregon, when I worked, I cleaned our lines every 2 weeks. And it's actually really fun to clean lines. It's a lot of steps and a lot of time, but you know that you're getting good quality beer. And I think that's really important. And then foam is dependent on where I am. If I'm at the local dive bar, they're not getting any foam. If I go to a nice restaurant, I expect usually like like an inch, 2 fingers. I don't know how many centimeters that is. Sorry, metric system. I'm an American, going to talk Fahrenheit.
Most of our viewers and listeners are from the US, by the way.
Oh, okay, good. Well then, yeah, an inch. I'll say an inch of foam. And then, if it's a beer, it's a Czech style beer, I expect way more foam. If it's a British style beer, I usually expect a little less. It all depends on, and then the beer ultimately tastes good. And that's how the brewer intended it, that's the most important thing.
Exactly. And you mentioned foam, and just so you know, from the Smart app, you can choose how much foam you want.
Good.
So
I like that.
I thought you would like that feature, because most of the advanced Cicerones who I've talked to, master Cicerones, when they see the add foam feature, they're like, oh, I can choose as much foam as I want, and I say yes, yes you can. So that's awesome. And you said you like cleaning lines. I hope you don't get scared from what I say, but our Smart Clean can clean 4 beer lines in 20 minutes. So I hope
no. Cleaning lines takes a really long time to do.
Yeah. So made that as well. I hope you're like, oh no.
No, that's totally fine. As long as the beer lines are clean, that's important.
They get much more cleaner. Yes. So we do have a question from the audience, and I usually take the questions at the end. But the question came from, I would say, the number one fan or viewer of Perfect Beer Talks webinar, and that's Dr. Stefan Lustig. He is also. If I say he's an expert in beer, I think it would be an understatement. So he is just one of the gods of beer based in Germany. He says, "Hi, Em. I like your very fresh, enthusiastic approach to our highly appreciated beverage. Even more, I like your Tintin frames." 2 comments. I think AI robotics add value if we allocate the freed up resources to upskill and coach these individuals to add even more value. Sustainability and especially decarbonization is a tough cookie, and the key to success is collaboration, as it's difficult to achieve targets standalone. What is your view?
Well, Stefan, I think you're right. So if it does free up more time to do other things, AI, then I think that's really great. And then your sustainability question, let me read it one more time, make sure I get this right. When I get put on the spot, sometimes I'm like, what are you asking?
You can take your time. It's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think working with someone like Earthly Labs and being able to reuse everything that's off put in the brewery is the key, right? So your brew kettle puts out X amount of energy. How can we harness that to use less energy? Your water, how can we measure out how much water we actually use so we're not dumping it all down the drain? And then same thing with using carbonation. How can we reuse? I mean, I've worked at a brewery where there's the CO2 levels on the brew floor are high, and it's like, why are we allowing this to escape into the atmosphere when we can use it and carbonate the beer naturally and easily? Granted, the number one thing that's the up thing for it is the upfront cost. But I think in the future, long term, especially during COVID, we had a CO2 shortage here in America, where a lot of breweries were really worried about where they can be able to get the CO2 needed to carbonate their beers. And so using what you have, I mean, I think those are really, really important steps to making beer a cleaner resource, because beer can be very wasteful, which is very unfortunate. So.
Yes. So for sure. And like, I don't know all the data behind how much waste the beer industry actually does put yearly, or I don't know. But I know for the keg part, the draft beer part, the American Brewers Association, I think, released a study a few years back where they said that there's a 20% loss per keg being used.
Oh, I bet it's probably, yeah. I don't know the exact numbers, but 15 to 20 seems pretty normal, because people clean their lines, they bleed their lines. They'll dump the first pint. Beer will kick until it will foam, and beer is 25% foam. And so if you're not keeping the keg temperature controlled for X amount of time, beer needs to sit at the same temperature for over 24 hours before it can be used. Otherwise, you're wasting beer. And no one wants. You can wait for the foam to settle, and obviously it turns into beer, but that's not sustainable.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's important. So making sure that beer is poured correctly and poured at the right temperature is something those are easy things that anyone can do, as long as you know how to use them. Or using FOBs, foam on beer, to stop the flow. If you have a long draw system, those can mitigate loss, and those can pay for themselves. They're kind of pricey up front, but you'll save tons of beer in the future, and that'll cut down on costs and loss as well.
Yeah, and also the smart app does that as well. But I'll just stop talking about the smart app, and I want to ask you a question about if you could choose one historical figure or just one person to share a pint with, who would it be and why?
So I'm a big presidents. As an American, I love the American presidents and learning about them. And so, like, I'm sure it'd be a weird one to say, but like, I probably someone like Abe Lincoln. Although because I bet the beer would be really interesting. I took this question to be like, I want to go back in time, and where do I want to drink the beer? And so this is like 1860s. So you've got the large influx of Germans coming, and they're making American lager, pre-prohibition lager. So like using hoppy cluster hops from New York State or Michigan. And then I think that would be really fascinating to have a pint in the 1860s with Abe Lincoln. I was trying to think of like what time period, or George Washington, because they had he had a brewery, I believe, on his property, and so did Thomas Jefferson. They both had breweries on their properties, because beer was because porter beer was very, very, very popular in England, but it was also popular in the colonies, and so they wanted to brew it. They brewed it a little differently because access to local ingredients and whatnot. And so my question is like, what time period did I want to drink their time period? And so like, yeah, I would say either George Washington or Abe Lincoln, because I think those are really fascinating. Also, two very interesting gentlemen. And George Washington definitely liked beer. I don't know Abe Lincoln's drinking habits. He probably didn't. Although I don't, but I still would be like, we're going to drink German beer together. And I bet the German beer halls on Sundays in the 1860s were probably really awesome. So
For sure. Yeah. That's a cool answer. Now, my question for you is, now this is a question that whenever I ask it to the guests, they're like, that's a tough one. But I think you'll give me a good answer. If you can change any rule at all about the beverage industry, what would it be and why?
that is a tough one. I have a few answers. I think I wish that beer is a passion industry, and so I think a lot of people take low pay or work for free. And I wish
Mm,
that beer had a higher pay rate, pay cut, or not pay cut, but I wish people had, I wish the rule that like beer was a passion, so we don't have to pay you as much, which
mhm.
is something that happens in America. I don't know overseas what the rule is. I know when you brew in
Yeah.
America, anyone can brew. It's like not like in Germany where you have to like if you're a master brewer, you went to the school and you got that designation. In America, anyone can call themselves a master brewer, which is not great, but unless their beer's really good. So I'm kind of I don't know. Anyway, I think I wish that people were paid more for the amount of work that they did. I don't know that that's not really a rule. And then let me think. Hold on a second. I mean, there's so many things. Rules is kind of there really aren't any rules in beer. I mean, because there are a lot of right answers. That's one thing I say a lot
Maybe
with
what is
beer.
one right answer you think should not be the right answer, or do you think it's
Oh,
the right
got it. Yeah.
answer?
Um, I wish that more people. Yeah. I mean, we're living in an age of great beer. There's a lot of great beer everywhere, and beer is very local. I live in a town of about 75,000. We have two breweries. They're both quite good. Um, so, yeah, it is a hard question. See, you thought I could do it, but I mean, I can't. Rule. Let's see. I wish the rule. I mean, I wish people were more adherent to cleaning their draft lines. A place that's really struggling with draft lines being dirty is New York City. New York City has filthy draft lines, and it always drives me nuts. The rule
Yes.
is when I go to a bar and most people are drinking bottle, you always order bottle because then their draft line is disgusting. Um,
That's
so
yeah,
yeah,
that's
I wish that the rule was like I wish people adhered to the fact that you need to clean your draft lines every 2 weeks because there are a lot of really gross beers out there. And there's nothing worse than when you order a beer and you're like, all right, and then it tastes like sour butter, and you're like, I can't drink this. That happened to me at an American football game. I paid $11 for a beer and it was
oh wow.
infected. And I was like, and I immediately it was a Molson Coors product, and I know someone at Molson Coors, and I at the game was texting them being like, you get your salesperson out here right now to fix this, and they were like, oh, we will, and they did. I haven't been back to a game since, so I don't know the draft
Mhm.
lines, but it was so bad. I didn't drink it, but it was like $11. You pay $11 for a beer, you want it to taste good.
That hurts, man. That hurt me. $11 and you didn't even get to enjoy it.
No, I drank, and my husband has a better tolerance for. He wouldn't drink it. He was like, nope, nope. We just we dumped it out. It was very
So
sad.
that bad, you say? Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
Actually, so we do have a team in New York City, and our CEO is currently in New York City as well. He's been there for like the better part of half a year now, and he always also says that draft lines in New York City are filthy. They are
They're
nasty.
filthy. They're really gross.
It's
They're
really
yeah,
annoys him.
you have to go to even reputable beer bars. I went to a very well-known beer bar in Lower Manhattan, and their draft lines were filthy. And I was like, oh man, like I think it's hard to get, like a line cleaner there, or people don't know it. I don't know. New York
Mhm.
City has just really gross draft lines. So makes yeah.
Somebody, yeah, somebody from our team. Sorry if I'm interrupting you.
No, you're good.
Know him, Chris McClellan.
Yes.
He's also an advanced Cicerone. He actually shared a story with me a couple of weeks ago. He was like, I went to this bar. The owner is my friend, and he was like, I need to cut on some expenses, so I'm going to stop cleaning my lines. every 2 weeks. I'll just clean them every week, every month, once a month. So I'll just do more sales and I'll clean them less. So I'll just save money and earn more money. And Chris was like, no, man, no, absolutely no. The cleaner the lines are, the more customers you're gonna have.
Yep,
You have to
absolutely.
understand that. It's like, it's so sad that people don't understand that. And even here in Istanbul or in Turkey in general, and we have some people who have the smart app. They're like, or the smart cleaner, like, I clean my lines every month. I'm so good at it. And we're like, no.
No. Every 2 weeks, clean your
Education,
lines.
education, but training part once again from all over again. Because no, that's not how it's done. So keep your lines clean, please. Everyone who has a bar or restaurant or is serving draft beer, just please keep your lines clean, and you'll be thankful for listening to us in the future. Now, my last two questions for you is: how would you define success? Is the first one.
I think success is a feeling. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's something that comes from inside. So if you feel successful and I mean, there's a financial aspect. So can you pay your bills?
Mm-hmm.
Are you
Yeah.
not like in a ton of debt? Don't be in a ton of debt. Can you pay your bills? Do you do what you love? Are you happy? And if you have those three things, you are successful in my mind. Does Pints and Panels make millions of dollars? Absolutely not. This is a job I love, but at the same time, I feel that I'm successful because have brand. Also, if you have goals and you meet them or exceed them, and you have brand tenets you live by. So Pints and Panels has, you know, accessibility, diversity, making sure everyone is represented when I draw beers. You know, women, people of color, older people, younger people. Everyone enjoys and loves beer. So making sure that everyone feels represented. Putting out good content that's accurate, talking to people, making sure that people have questions, they're answered. And if I can do all the things I set out for, then I am successful. So whatever you do, if you have things that you're working towards and you can exceed them or meet them, and you're doing what you love, that is success to me.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I don't want to give any comments on that because it was so perfect. I just wanted everyone to just take in whatever they want to take in from it. But my last question for you is: what is the best advice you've ever received? And would you like to share it with our audience today?
Of course. So the best advice I ever got was when Pints and Panels was just starting out. I was actually seeing a therapist because I don't want to. I like getting a third person who doesn't have is not a family member or a friend to ask
Mm-hmm.
for advice. I think therapy is very, very helpful for that because they don't know you. You know, they do, but they don't. And they have a good eye for making sure that you're kind of keeping on the right path. And I was kind of at a point where Pints and Panels wasn't a full-time job yet. And I was like, what am I doing? And what am I supposed to do? You know, that's a very large question. And my therapist went, maybe the thing you want to do doesn't exist yet. And you need to create that. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. And that's when Pints and Panels, I was like, okay, let's start thinking of this as a business. And how can I make it my full-time job? And that was something that I really needed to hear. I needed to hear that. And always listen to everyone, ask advice, I think is, what piece of advice? Ask advice and say, what am I doing? What things are happening? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Also, taking constructive criticism is really important and not being, too upset about getting critique. I think critiques are really, really important as well. And so, yeah, that's the best advice I've ever gotten was thinking outside the box, which is a cliche, but carving out something that didn't exist. There is no visual beer education in the world. That's the only thing I do. And
Yeah.
so that was that was a really great thing to hear was striking out and creating something on your own. And, that sounds simple, but having someone tell it to you was yeah, I drew it for her and like drew a little picture for it, and I think she has it framed in her. I don't see her anymore because we felt like we had kind of hit that. You know, I was good.
Mhm.
I don't need advice. I mean, I always need advice, but yeah, she was like, mail me that picture you drew of me. So I'm pretty sure it's like framed somewhere. Cause you know, it was without, I don't know if I hadn't started seeing her, I don't know if I would be here today. So I'm very thankful to having someone kind of give and, you know, advice and making sure that you're, you know, doing the right thing.
That's awesome. I'm a psychology graduate.
Oh,
So
nice.
yes, so having you say something like this is so awesome because it also just just talks. You're just also saying how important therapy is, and it's not just something that people should go when they need it, but also
No,
be
it's great. Yeah.
an advice from a third party. I love it as well. It's an advice that is not based on emotions. It's not based on any experience, any bad history, or anything else. It's just she saw you for who you were, and then she told it to you straight up, I think, without even you knowing yet who you were properly. So that's awesome. And with that, I want to thank you so much for joining Perfect Beer Talks webinar. If you want to share anything with our audience that you haven't so far, please go ahead and do so.
Yeah. So if you're interested in learning more about pints and panels, it's my website is www.pintsandpanels.com. If you go to the educational archive link, that's where hundreds of visual beer education pages will be found. And then for social media, at Pints and Panels across all social media. And so you'll get to find everything there. If you have a question for me, you can message me on Instagram. That's the one I'm on the most. And
Mhm.
I am easy to reach. There's also a contact me link on my website that you'll see at the top, and you can ask me any question you want, and I will get back to you as long as the question is nice and not rude, which I
So
don't get. No, most people aren't rude, so that's good.
I put your website account I on the comment section for
Oh,
everyone.
great. Thank you.
And I'm doing the same with your Instagram account as well. Guys, please go and follow her. She's really one of the best I've seen, so, like everywhere in the beer industry. Thank you so much for taking your time. It was lovely to talk to you. It was a great 1 hour for me, and I learned so much from you. For all of you guys who maybe came from for M but don't know who Pabino is, make sure to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, check our website as well. It's all going to be so you're if you're watching us, you're probably one of Pabino's accounts. So go ahead and check our accounts and go to our website to learn more about our products. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you on the next one. And thank you, Em, so much once again. Hopefully we can do this once again soon. And I'm very excited for your new book. Let me know when it comes out, and I'll make sure to read it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay then, great. Have a nice day, everyone. See you. Bye.